The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power in the creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. We got ourselves quite a show for you, viewers and listeners. Excited for it. In fact, we were so excited to do this show that we just had to do it a day earlier. We are live one day earlier than when we usually go live on this show, and I'm telling you now, it's because we're really excited for the show. It might also be because it's Memorial Day weekend coming up, so we had to move some of our stuff over a day because of that. But I like my first answer, that we just are so excited for our episode content this week that we couldn't wait to bring it to you. It's going to be quite a program, viewers and listeners. Our guest coming up in the second segment is Talia Keys, a terrific indie artist who is heavily involved with the buy before you stream movement. This is a really important, popular, powerful movement in indie artistry right now. A lot of artists trying to tell you, before you stream music, buy the vinyl version, buy the CD version, because that physical copy is going to make me as the artist so much more money than if you streamed my song even 100 times, even 1,000 times. So it's an important movement to put more money in indie creators' pockets. Our guest, Talia Keys, who had an album come out, From the Ashes. That's actually the first album that was released specifically under the buy before you stream movement. So excited to hear about her, tell us about how she dipped her toe into that water, starting this really important movement with her music. She's also a tremendous activist, is involved with a number of really important social causes. Excited to talk to her about that. A lot of great topics. We're going to really do some really cool convos with Talia Keys, so don't go anywhere. That's going to be a blast. In the meantime, though, we got a lot to chew on in this first segment here. Let me go ahead and bring in producer Lauren. Hello, Lauren. How are you?
Hi, I was just typing to you on the private chat as you were going, so I was like, I can't push the button to bring myself on. Sorry.
Oh, hopefully
that's what happens when I double duty. Da, na, 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 na.
Yeah.
You can't see my other duty.
It's always asking a lot of you when we make you, in addition to producing the show, which you do quite admirably, to also have you come in and co-host. We love when you co-host because you bring a lot of insight into the show. You're my sister, so you know how to poke me just right if you need to bother me sometimes. You're great at that. And we can knock each other around as brothers and sisters are wont to do. But you're experienced. You know a lot about this industry. You've done stuff in front of the camera, on the stage, behind the camera, backstage. And so you bring a wide range of perspectives. But it is asking a lot of you when we have you talking to me, yet somehow still producing the show behind the scenes simultaneously. I'm not quite sure how you do it, but we're glad when you do.
Thanks. I think that ADHD helps a lot.
Yeah, we often speak about ADHD and the D
The
is
negative
deficit,
content.
right? We think of the negatives of it, but apparently what it can also do is give you a superhuman ability to produce a Sirius XM podcast while simultaneously co-hosting it.
Multitasking. I do 5 tasks at once, way better than one task. But if you try to get me to focus on one thing, it's not happening.
You kind of go against the Ron Swanson advice of don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing. You like to 1/5 ass 5 things, and you do that better than when you focus on 1 thing, according to you.
But at the end of that time of the 5 things, I still got 5 things done. I just didn't do them one at a time.
Yes, indeed. Well, the reason why I wanted to talk to you again this week, producer Lauren, is that I wanted to pick up the thread on the conversation we were having last week about Break the Business Friend, a guest we had on the show about 5-6 weeks ago, Lana Love. I really enjoyed that Lana Love interview we did 5 or 6 weeks ago. She spoke to me in a pretty fun way because in addition to being an accomplished indie artist, which we already love around here, she's also a copyright nerd. So a woman after my own heart, a fellow copyright nerd. She's involved with the Copyright Alliance. She does talks on copyright. So, love the conversation we were able to have. She had some great copyright tips for our viewers and listeners. And so she has a special place in our heart. We love Lana Love around here. And so I was pretty blown away when a couple weeks ago I was reading Variety, as I'm wont to do, and saw that she was embroiled in a rather nasty situation in which she, according to this article, was tricked in being on a reality competition show that she had every reason to believe was a real reality competition show, a la American Idol or The Voice, but it wound up, as she found out, it wound up actually being a fake reality show and a segment on the Nathan Fielder HBO show, The Rehearsal. And in the process of being on this fake show, she spent a lot of money. She took a lot of time. She was traveling, all under the auspices of, I'm going to be on this show, I'm competing on it, and the whole thing turned out to be fake. And in a rather impressive amount of courage, instead of just sort of, tucking her tail between her legs and kind of hiding out, she spoke out against this. She, allowed herself to be quoted in this Variety article, speaking out against what happened to her, put her name on it. And since then has been quite a topic of discussion in this industry. And I've been pretty blown away by the whole scenario. And I mean, now that you've had a week to kind of chew on this story a little bit, Lauren, where are you at on it right now? Because it's pretty wild.
I keep thinking, like I do about a lot of things where people try to spin it as though they're getting something out of it. And I turn around and I think, why? Why would you put yourself in a position of that kind of, opening yourself up to that kind of ridicule and hostility and dangers of your career, or villainizing, major players and industries and things like that? If, nobody does that to benefit themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When people the more I think about it, I'm like, this isn't for fun for her. That's a hard thing to choose to do. It's difficult to take the path that's difficult, it's easy to keep your mouth shut. And I, for a lot of reasons, have had that, poem in my head forever now. That's like, when they came for the communists, I did nothing because I was not a communist. And when they came for and then when they came for me, nobody spoke up for me. And she's speaking up. And she's not just speaking up for herself. She's speaking up for other artists and telling the world not just, hey, this person did a mean thing to me, but rather understand what artists go through in that process. Try to open yourself up to what we expose ourselves to and what we go through that you don't see, to get that small piece that you see. And if this is an opportunity to say, I'm sure it was for your entertainment, and a lot of what I do is for your entertainment, but I make a choice and I put a lot of work and effort into the person that I present to you. And it's really not okay to not give that to an artist. If I, a lot of people, if you do a show and then they take you out of context in that show, that's for years proven to really, really hurt people on a personal level. And that's people who aren't exposing themselves to the vulnerability of the audition process. That's just so anyway, you say, what have I thought in the last week? Well, what's been going over in my head in the last week over and over again is, there's no way that she would choose to do this for her benefit, or that she's trying to get attention. And the upside of this is a benefit for others far more than herself. She is putting herself at a lot of risk and a lot of danger in hopes of helping the broader independent artist world, so that the non-independent artists and the non-artists period kind of have a little bit of a glimpse of behind the camera, like what we go through. And it's not just the what you see or what happened backstage or the anything else, but the I have to buy flights to get to that one place where that audition is. If I don't make myself look good, I'm not going to get that job, because I've done this. I know what works. And you can make fun of my choices as much as you want, but you know what? They've worked for me up till now. So I know what works for my career. And, anyway, I could rant, but I guess the last week has been a rant of me being upset of what's happening to another artist, which I respect that she's doing that as well. But somebody should stand up for her as well, because there's a lot of things happening and a lot of things being said that's not cool for somebody who's already gone through something not cool.
Yeah. And it's my hope that this, and I know this is Lana's hope as well, is that this can be an educational experience for artists, that it can put other artists out on warning. Because, and I talked about this last week, Lana Love didn't fall off the turnip truck. She is not a naive ingenue who doesn't know what she's doing. She is a talented, accomplished, savvy professional in this industry. And so I think the lesson is, if this can happen to Lana Love, this can happen to any artist. And artists need to be on notice of this kind of stuff. They need to review legal documents. They got to get lawyers involved, because God, I'd hate for this kind of stuff to happen more often. But I don't think we should put words in Lana's mouth about what motivated her to do this, what she's going through right now, because thankfully we can have her speak for herself. Joining us now on Break the Business, she's back again. We love that for us. Lana Love is here. Hi, Lana.
Hey, y'all. So happy to be back. Thank you for having me. And Lauren, thank you so much for what you said.
We're happy you're here.
I can't tell you how much it means. Thank you.
It's so good to see you again, my fellow copyright nerd.
Yes, go copyright nerds.
We are kindred spirits in that regard. What's that?
It paid off this time.
Yes, it did. I know you told us before the show you've sort of been judicious about what programs you've been willing to go on to talk about this, and I guess you just couldn't resist the call of your fellow copyright nerd to talk about this.
Did you see Copyright Nerd in her article that, despite the fact that she didn't have time to go through the contract and was kind of like rushed into things, the one thing she actually stood up for was pretty much a copyright thing. It was like, hold on. Rights to my music, rights to their, not just mine, their music. Like, that's something I'm not letting play, even through my rush. And so
I'm not going to lie.
True.
I did smile when Lana was saying that, and as part of reading the contracts for this fake reality show, she was quick to say, no, I need to make sure I keep my rights to my music, my recordings. Love that for you, Lana. Let me start with what I think is my most important question that I really want to ask you, given everything that you're going through right now. How are you? How are we doing?
Well, thanks. Thank you for asking that. I didn't think that you were going to ask that. I'm a lot of things. I feel it all. I've obviously a lot of mixed feelings about what's happening. I am proud of myself for standing up. I really am. Deep down, I think for a lot of times I didn't feel like I had the power to say no in this industry. And now I am almost, I won't say forced to, but I feel a deep responsibility to. So that piece of my heart, my soul feels like, yeah, girl, you did it and you did the right thing, regardless of the backlash. So deep in my heart, I know what I did was right. And that's really, at the end of the day, all that matters to me.
And before we talk about the backlash, because a lot has happened since this article in Variety came out, can we talk first about give us a little more info about the negative impacts you faced just by going through the audition process, in terms of the money that you spent out of pocket, the work that you forewent so that you could do this fake reality show that you didn't know was fake because they didn't tell you it was fake?
Yeah, I mean, I had been on The Voice before, so I know what these things are and how you have to go in thinking you're going to win. right? Or go in thinking, you know, you prep yourself mentally, you prepare, you take voice lessons, you have to look on point, your hair, makeup, everything has to be, you know, to a T. And in my eyes, that's what I've always done as a performer, right? There's a lot more aspects that go into creating your persona and who you are and the way you sound and what you sing. So there was that piece of it, right? And then there's the travel. So I flew myself there 3 times on my own dime. I put myself up, and I had to put myself in a place that was close by the studio, a very expensive area. Also, the producers changed the dates many, many times, almost every single time I went out. So I would have to constantly change my plane ticket 2 days before I fly out. So that's expensive. That's a $600 ticket right there. And then I had a couple gigs. I had a $2,000 gig I had to cancel, and then thousands of dollars worth of voice lessons that I had to cancel. So
And it sounds like as you moved further through the audition experience, you started to see some red flags.
Yes.
Whether it was, you know, the changing of venues or things like that. Tell us more about the red flags that ultimately caused you to figure out this isn't a real show.
I mean, obviously there were pilots auditioning.
The airline pilot judges. Yeah.
Yes. And so I got a lot of backlash about, well, if you didn't, you know, that should have been a dead giveaway. Not really. There, we've got the Masked Singer. What if you walked into the Masked Singer? There you go. There's a thumbs up. Walk into the Masked Singer and be like, hey, we're going to dress you like in a mask and you're going to sing through it. We're going to guess who you are. Like these reality shows, my whole life has been weird. The contracts I've done have been weird.
It is absolutely not the weirdest thing that we've seen on a reality competition show. That is an absolutely fair point.
Yeah. So I obviously that was a red flag, but I didn't flag it as red. I flagged it as like, this is strange. Then they kept us over, right? And they herded us from one room to another to another. We were on the Formosa lot in HBO. And then I remember they held me and just a couple of people who had made it through to the next round in this holding area where he had the big, you know, it was like 40-foot tall ceilings in the holding area there. Mm-hmm. And it was just me kind of like alone for a couple of hours. And then a couple of people started trickling in and then they're like, you're going to sing Old MacDonald or Yankee Doodle Dandy. And I'm like, I don't even know Yankee Doodle Dandy. Like, can I, and I don't have service out here. I was like, you're going to have to sing it to me because I don't know. So it was just weird. And then I didn't even get to audition that song. Then they just sent me home and said, you already made it through. You're fine. I said, okay. And then I get an email saying, can you fly out in a couple days? It's like the whole thing was chaotic. It was not like The Voice at all. The Voice was so cut and dry. So there were things that like, you know, I just, in the heat of it, you think you make it on the show, right? You think you make it to the next round. And then you invest more time, more energy, more mental capacity to believe in yourself again, you know? And that's really the worst part, I think, because performers, it, like you said, Lauren, it takes a lot to get up there and put your heart on the line and for the slimmest chance of being seen. And so that piece of it to me is what we need to change. And obviously with everything that's happening in the news right now, it's not just me speaking out. It's a whole slew. This is just the beginning of people speaking out about the unethical gray areas in this industry. And I'm glad that I could shed some light on it. And I would do it 10 times over.
The part that really annoys me about what happened to you isn't just that you were duped to be into being on a show that they did this to you, but that they put you through the needless harm of having you leave and then having you come back and have to pay for another flight to come back. Like they could have done the joke, right? They could have done the fake reality show without having you to pay for a second flight. Like they could have accomplished all the same comedic purposes that they wanted to accomplish, which is already, you know, unkind enough to you, without having to just needlessly hit your checking account again.
I totally agree. I think that there's an even better solve to this. How about just say it's a social experiment up front?
Let you guys in on it. Like
let you be in on the joke too.
Performer. Yeah.
Why aren't we in on the joke? because a ton of singers would have signed up and gone to that audition, even knowing it was a social experiment. I just wouldn't be one of them.
Yeah. And in theory, they were doing the social experiment on the pilots, right? Not on you.
In theory.
So, in theory, right? That's why that was there.
One thing I didn't expect from this whole scenario after I read the Variety article has been the aftermath of that article and just the negative vitriol that Lana has faced, producer Lauren. I mean, just a lot of negative comments like that are coming from different directions, right? There are folks who are accusing Lana of this being a money grab, or you're trying to sue them. Or, you know, some people are saying that this was a hit piece that was put in by the producers through Variety to go after Nathan Fielder. Just
she's in on it.
Yeah, wild. Yeah, she's in on it.
Why? That's what I think.
By the way, if this is all just continuing to be part of the Nathan Fielder bit of like having Lana do all this, it is a brilliantly executed bit, but I don't think it's that creative of them.
In which case, applause. That's some good acting.
I mean, like, they got us too. But no, that doesn't sound like what's happening here. What sounds like instead is that you're getting hit from all sides with just a horrific amount of aftermath that's wholly undeserved, knowing, like, how much we care about you, Lana. What's this been like? This, like, post-Variety article stuff you've been dealing with?
Well, I really feel the need almost to clear my name isn't the right term, but just stand up for a couple things that I guess people were confused about, like saying that I'm suing them. Someone did a video that got 3 million hits saying that I am suing HBO and Nathan Fielder. That could not be further from the truth. I specifically didn't. I could have, but I chose not to, because this is not about money. This is about changing an industry that is not transparent. And I would like for it to be in black and white and be fair. And I am willing to put myself and my career on the line. I'll never work at HBO again. I will never work at a big company, maybe ever in my career, because I did this. So I knew what I was doing when I pulled the trigger here. But I didn't do it for me. I did it for the people, the girls that I teach. Because who's going to do it for them? No one. No one did it for me when I was in the industry. So I had to do it for myself.
And your contract that you signed with them, you had mentioned in the article that it specifically did have an NDA that you are purporting that you are breaking by making these public statements.
Yes.
And are you concerned with the potential impacts that might face? Have you heard anything from HBO? Like, from what I heard in the article, like, HBO couldn't be reached for comment. Have you heard anything from them about you doing this?
Everyone is saying no comment. And there's a reason for that. Why do you think?
Yeah, you're suspecting that they know that they could potentially face some of their own potential ramifications for what they've done, and so they're just kind of laying low while all this goes through.
They don't want the conversation.
I'm not the only one who is speaking out. There are other contestants who have spoken out, who are confirming my story, and several of them have DM'd me saying that they are afraid. And that is the way that these bigger companies are able to silence artists like me. And I'm not the only story here, and this is a bigger story than just this one show. This is the entire industry and the ecosystem that we operate in here in the music and film and TV, all of it.
All entertainment, for sure.
Now, moving from the NDA provision of the agreement, I'd like to talk more broadly about the contract terms that we often see in these reality show contracts. Terms that I think probably appeared in the contracts that you signed that can make things like this possible, right? A lot of reality competition show contracts will have clauses that say, we are allowed to edit you however we want. Mm-hmm. We can even edit you in ways that completely take you out of context. And we're also going to put language in there that says that you waive your rights to sue as broadly as the law is going to allow, right? They do all kinds of things in these contracts to say, we can do whatever we want and there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm wondering, and I'm assuming that a lot of that language appears in your contracts on this show.
Yes, you're 100% correct on all of that. contracts rely on context and consent.
Mhm.
And that's why the contract does not stand. I signed that under false pretenses, period, point blank.
Kind of under duress. I mean,
And they gave us 5 minutes to sign those contracts. And then it was non-union in the beginning, and then it went SAG. And that's when I fought for my copyright, because they changed the contract at the end. And that was the biggest red flag. That was the moment where I went, something's weird. This is weird. And I told the producers, I said, look, you're going to change this. You're going to give me an addendum and all of these songwriters in this room an addendum, or I am walking. And they did within the hour.
So, all right.
It was standard. The contract was a standard performance agreement. That's why I didn't flag it, because all of these shows do the same thing.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, a lot of these kind of terms that are very like, we can do whatever we want. Like, these don't just appear in this show. Like the American Idol contract, the Voice contract, they all have these kind of very anti-creator terms in them, right? Which is why, and I've said this on the show before, when I've had clients who've gotten on The Voice, who've gotten on American Idol, you know, they'll bring me the contracts and I will try to talk them out of even those shows, those established shows. If a client comes to me with a reality show that's never existed before, I'm doing everything I can to talk them out of it, because you don't know what you're walking into, right? Now, your example, Lana, is the most extreme example, because in my wildest dreams, I would never imagine that the show is going to be fake. But, you know, there's so many things that can go wrong when you're dealing with an unknown entity reality show. And unfortunately, you were just caught in the worst version of it.
and they didn't even give you time to reach out to an attorney, right? Like that to me is kind of like being arrested and not giving an attorney. Like Ryan saying all these contracts I looked over, but correct me if I'm wrong, they didn't allow you to let an attorney look at it before you had to sign it.
No, we walked in, we were on the lot in a parking lot, and everybody had to sign in. And then you were given a contract, about 10 people at a time. You were given a contract, you had a table and a pen to sit down at, and you had 5 minutes to read that contract, and they were taking the entire group in at a time. And if you did not sign that contract, you couldn't enter.
You were given the contract on site, not before like you had come over there, and they said you had to sign it right then and there, or you couldn't walk in?
Correct.
This is where she's like, there's a problem with the contract. It makes them.
That's dirty pool. That's, you know,
Yes.
I'm
That was not like that.
flabbergasted to hear that.
It was not like that.
Reputable production company.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And your brain is in a different place. People who think that, you know, hindsight's 2020, right? And when you're in those moments, being able to see every dot and like that's not even realistic.
Well,
you know,
and to your point, I did not have fake reality singing competition show on my radar for spring 2025.
right. You don't go in going, let me make sure this isn't fake. Like you don't start there.
Yeah. No,
And it's
I
kind of
really thought it was real, and everyone did. And by the way, no one saw him. In the actual show, it was edited in that he was transparent with everyone. That's not true. We never saw him. We were only told that this was a singing competition show. How I found out about this audition, I was sent an email from my college, AMDA. And they sent an email saying that it was HBO Voices 2024 competition show. The grand prize is that the finalists get to sing with a Grammy Award-winning artist. That's how it was.
That's not even cash.
And
Like, you weren't in it
HBO
for
is in
money.
the title, though.
HBO is in the title.
So, like that, I mean, that
It's an
screams
HBO.
legitimacy.
And I did a post on this on my TikTok where I went through all of the comments that people were saying and I addressed each of them. And a lot of it, and the biggest thing that gets me is like, I am not ungrateful for the experience. I am never ungrateful to be on TV. I understand the value of that. I've worked my entire life in the dark, playing on that piano in my little apartment in Hell's Kitchen, in the dark at 3 a.m. writing songs. Okay. I get it. I've been there. When you put yourself out there you are against an entire firing squad. What I have done, I understand what I've done. And I, again, would do it 10 times over, because at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about moving forward and making better decisions. And I hope this becomes a touchstone for the industry. I really, really does. I don't know if it will, but I'm glad that it reached so many people. I didn't know it would reach that many people, by the way. So to say this is a press ploy is bullcrap. I didn't know. I didn't know it would reach hundreds of millions of people, but I'm glad that it did. I really am. And I will gladly take the backlash too. And I'm grateful for all of it.
Lauren, 2025 has been something of the year of artists starting important conversations.
Standing up for sure.
I find a lot of commonalities between Lana's story and Lana's approach to it and the Chappell Roan story that we covered back in February, March, about how when Chappell Roan gave her Best New Artist Grammy acceptance speech, she was speaking out against the lack of health insurance that a lot of artists get with record labels. And that sparked a very important conversation, part of which was fueled by the backlash that she faced. A lot of industry types came down pretty hard on her. She then rose up and fought back, and it caused this really important conversation. It affected a lot of change. And I see a lot of threads here with that and with what Lana's going through. She went through this really crappy situation. She's speaking out. She's getting hit with backlash that's unfortunately and sadly predictable, but it is causing this conversation that hopefully will affect some change so that something like this does not happen to an independent artist ever again.
Well, somebody told her they were interested in her, and then they led her on for a while until they told everyone it was a big joke. They don't actually like her, and they leave her crying in a hallway where everybody walks around and tells her it's her fault, and she should have known that that guy was leading her on. Like, at what point do you take the person who was hurt and harmed and then villainize them? Because why? Like, I don't understand the people whose motivation is like kick them while they're down.
Oh,
like,
victim blaming is our favorite pastime in this country. My God. Lana, it is not easy to do what you're doing.
No.
Everything
I didn't cry in a hallway, though.
No, I'm saying it's like that now.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Let's get it.
Because if you did, you would have done it for you.
It was a living room. No.
And said, like, look at this.
There you go. It's a living room. Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage, even just coming on here and telling your story. And as a gesture of gratitude for doing that, Lana, we would love for you to just, like, if we could take just a couple minutes and let you just put on your artist hat for a second and celebrate your music. I believe you have a new single out. Called Antidote that we very much enjoy. And with your permission, of course, because we know you are a strong proponent of protecting your intellectual property, we would like, in lieu of playing our normal commercial break on this program, we would like to instead play your song on Break the Business on Sirius XM Radio. And then, go right from there into our next segment. How does that work for you, Lana?
Hell yes.
Yeah, and her team friend is
what? You got some kind of Zoom filter on every time you put thumbs up. You get all these weird animations,
right? But her team sent over the actual music video as well. So if the streaming audience wants to see it, we're gonna play the whole thing.
All right, let's do that. Lana, thank you so much for being on this week. Don't be a stranger. You seem to have obeyed that directive by coming on so quickly, and we appreciate that.
And thank you for what you're doing too, not just for coming here, but thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate both of you so much, and I'm glad we got to talk about it.
Right back at you. Thank you so much. Lana, love everybody. Let's go ahead and play Antidote here, and we'll be right back on Break the Business.
Didn't know I was bulletproof till I took your shot. I've been having deja vu, try to catch me off guard. 6 styles can break my bones, trash my reputation. I'm in stitches over you, just not the kind you want. At night when you dream of me, think of the
possibilities. You better choose carefully, 'cause I won't show you love. See you in the dark, poison in your heart. Take your medicine, main ingredient. Can you keep a secret like Victoria? I am not an angel, I am not a devil. I'm the antidote. Take your medicine. Fashion fire, cue up the choir, getting higher, drink it down slow. Even the elixir isn't gonna fix you. Love you, but I gotta let you go. You're too maniacal. Poison ivy on your tongue, but I'm the hero one. Baby, I'm immune to you. Won't get a reaction when you dream of me. Think of the possibilities. You better choose carefully, 'cause you won't see me come. See you in the dark, poison in your heart. Take your medicine, main ingredient. Can you keep a secret like Victoria? I am not an angel, I am not a devil. I'm the antidote. Take your medicine. Let me again. Doctor, we got a problem. 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 Doctor, can you help? I can only save myself. Toxic. See you in the dark, poison in your heart. Take your medicine, main ingredient. Can you keep a secret like Victoria? I am not an angel, I am not a devil. I'm the antidote. Take your medicine. Let me again. Take your
Welcome back to Break the Business, everybody. Ryan Kairalla here with producer Lauren.
Multitasking.
Man, Antidote by Lana Love. I love it. That was tremendous.
Oh,
It's
I heard
nice
it, but I hadn't seen the video.
The
I was
video's
like,
pretty
doesn't
good.
She, I don't know what I'm allowed to say on the air, but didn't she look like a bat?
down.
Like, that was awesome.
A certified badass. That was a
Oh, good.
really cool, sleek music video. And, I think it's important in amid everything that she's going through, this bleep storm that she is trying to weather, it's nice to be reminded, oh yeah, this is actually a damn good indie artist too. And she
Right?
makes incredible music, and we should celebrate that amidst everything else that she's dealing with right now.
You know that. Wow.
But again, what a good sport for her stopping by and joining us, and sharing the story. A remarkable act of courage on her part. We thank her very, very much for doing that. I don't think we need to do any music or anything like. I want to get right into our next guest because she has been so patiently waiting. Speaking of good sports, because we ran long with the last interview. So let's go ahead and bring out our next guest this week. Hang on, where did
Where'd my intros go?
I know everything's all messed up because we ran long. Our guest this week is a Salt Lake City-based indie artist whose latest album, From the Ashes, was the first release under the new Buy Before You Stream initiative, a program that is empowering creators through giving them access to exclusive vinyl release windows. You can find out more about our guest's work by visiting TaliaKeys.com. We are happy to welcome Talia Keys on to Break the Business. Hello there.
Hello, y'all. Thanks for having me.
So
one of my
excited to have you
favorite
here.
Things. I'm so distracted easily, but like one of my favorite things is looking at what everybody has in the background. And I'll tell you, as soon as you popped in, I was like, ooh.
Oh, good stuff.
Ooh, yes.
It's a little bit haunted. It's a lot of music. It's, memorabilia.
There's a
It's-
lava lamp back there for the radio audience. I'm just But none other.
Thanks so much for having me. That last conversation was incredible to hear. And go Lana. I support it too. We need more artists speaking out.
That's never been a problem for you though.
No, not at all.
You are, I mean, like you speak out as much as your music is good. I mean, you go on your website, and one of the ththings that you have on your website, taliakeys.com, is here's a whole page of the activism causes that I give a damn about. And you can just read all about it. And that's so awesome. Can you tell us more about the role that activism plays in your career and how you just basically weave the things that you care about right into your art?
Yeah, I mean, it came from a place of like not having a choice, growing up very young. It was quite obvious that I was a little different. At the age of 9, I wanted to play the drums. And so I was really lucky. I grew up with music, started playing at a young age, drums, guitar. And I definitely felt different than most of my peers. And if you can't tell, because you're listening on the radio, I am a queer, non-binary woman. And, I kind of look the same that I did at the age of 10, to be completely honest. I still was rocking the Elvis hair, going for the whole vibe. But for me, it's like my existence kind of became a political thing, whether I liked it or not. My personality, what I was into. And just being a woman who wants to play guitar, right? You stand out or you might be different. So I just leaned into it. Instead of it being something that deterred me, I was like, no, I'm going to let this stuff fire me up and keep me going.
And you lean into it even when you inevitably get the same response that every female artist gets when you even try to dip your toe into activism, which is somebody's got to say, shut up and sing.
Yep.
So, I mean, like, I'm sure when you hear the shut up and sing comments from those fools out there, you just lean harder, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, and also it makes me realize those people don't listen to lyrics. a lot of the folks that hate on artists, that might lean in a political way. It's like, Roger Waters and Pink Floyd, like they've always been political. Bob Marley has always been political.
But they're men.
But they're men.
But they're men.
Did
you forget that?
Yeah. No, trust, we don't. We don't forget that ever.
Women
Y'all
are
don't
to be
let us.
quiet.
But yes, I just see it with the female artists too, where, Annie Lennox in the Eurythmics and just these powerful women taking up space and using their music for something more. And that's just what I've done since the beginning. My heroes have all kind of done that. So listen to the lyrics, folks. You're going to learn a whole lot about your favorite artists.
It blows my mind how many people don't listen to lyrics. I pulled that out to my cousin the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, did you hear what they said? And she's like, oh, I didn't even hear the words. And I was like, what?
Yep.
Oh,
The world we live in.
The world we live in.
Among the many virtuous causes that you involve yourself with is one that I think is particularly relevant to independent creators. And it's this buy before you stream movement that I've been hearing so much about. I was pretty intrigued to find out that your latest album was the first release off from this like buy before you stream movement, a movement to try to get people back to buying the physical, buying the vinyl, buying the CD, because artists make way more from one CD than they get from tons, hundreds of streams. So talk to us about this movement. How'd you get involved with it? Why is it important to you?
Yeah, so it's through my label, which is also an incredible nonprofit. Their name is Midtopia, based out of Wichita, Kansas.
Yes, we had what's his name? Rudy Love.
Yes, Rudy Love
was involved with Midtopia. Yeah, he was on the show.
He's my label mate. I
Very
love
cool.
them. They just released a new single too. But what's been really cool is that they're encouraging fans to invest into the music before it comes out on streaming platforms. Kind of like we did in the early 2000s and 90s and before that, how people just said, hey, I like this artist. I want to get their music and I'm going to hear it and I'm going to consume this entire album. Physical, beautiful music that you can hold.
She's holding up the vinyl.
I'm holding
up
the
gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Yes. And I'm just really, we're taking it back to this changing the relationship with music. You know, a lot of us put our heart and soul and like y'all just talked in the previous segment, our money and, you know, our livelihoods, our personalities. We put it all into our records just to make nothing from streaming services, literally pennies per stream. One of these vinyl records is worth about 30,000 streams on.
I was about to say pennies per stream. I wish it was pennies per stream.
That'd be
yeah.
awesome.
We are fighting for pennies per stream. It is fractions of pennies per stream.
Woo, don't remind me. But yeah, so I mean, I've released only one other vinyl too, about 4 years ago, and I just couldn't do it on my own. I couldn't redo that or re-release vinyl on my own. I can't afford it. I'm a touring musician. Most of my money now is going into funding touring rather than making money off of touring. It's a wild time to be in this industry. But I have no other choice. I was put on this planet to make music and share it with the world. So we're going to do it. But I want to say this too, like this record, it just came out. We released it on April 14th on vinyl record. And
From the Ashes, right?
From the Ashes is the name. It does not come out until May 30th. So fans have been able to get this long before it hits the streaming platforms.
Pre-sale now. Yeah.
Yes. And we've sold more records in the last 4 weeks than I sold in the entire 2 years, previous 2 years combined.
Yeah.
And because it created the conversation of, well, why are you doing this? Well, we want you to be connected. We want you to be part of our story. And most importantly, we don't want to have to rely on outside funding or sources that feel criminal or feel exploitive of who we are as human beings.
And this
Wouldn't
sort of
it-
release
yeah.
strategy shouldn't really be that controversial, right? I see a lot of similarities between this and like the windowing strategies that we use in the motion picture industry, right? Where it doesn't go right onto Netflix right away. It gets a theatrical release first. And for at least a few weeks, the only place where you can see that movie is in a big old theater.
Yep.
And this is kind of the same idea, right? If you want to enjoy this thing first, there's an exclusive vinyl window. And then once the vinyl people get a chance at it, only after a while does it go into these other formats like streaming. I think that makes sense.
Oh, it's been incredible. I mean, it's just been able to have that physical money coming in to help us put on our vinyl release show, which was we had a string section. We played the album from beginning to end, and we got to connect with our community, which is something I'm very it makes me keep going, right? We can't do this by ourselves. We have to do it with our fans, our friends, our family, our supporters, and new people we meet on live streams and radio shows too.
And it's nice when your audience and your fans and your community can tell you they support you and they want to see what you're producing instead of saying, prove to me I want what you're making. I'll only buy it once you've shown it to me and I decide I like it. It's
Yes.
like, tell me you believe in me.
And you know what? Most artists are not going to, well, we will say this. We want you to believe in us. You know, that's where we come from, is a vulnerable place. And we definitely want people to be connected to what we do. I don't know every artist, but I think a lot of us that are still in the game right now in this industry, we want to do this for the right reasons.
And I love that your label that you're working with now is making a community out of your fellow artists. Like, you know,
Yes.
they're not keeping you isolated or putting you against each other. The way you referred to your label mate, I was like, ooh, I like it. I like that team
Yes.
community. feeling.
Midtopia is so cool, Lauren. We
It
didn't
is
get a
so
chance to
cool.
talk to Rudy Love about Midtopia because we ran out of time. This is a really cool setup and like method of how this label is organized. Can you just give
Yep.
us a quick bit on that, Talia? Like, because I think
And then
Midtopia is
just
awesome.
send them over to us and you
So-
can bring them on
yeah.
next
I-
time you come.
But it's like a nonprofit, like accelerator style record label.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, they are a nonprofit. They work out of Wichita, like I said, and a lot of the people who are artists on the label also work for the label, which is huge. So they actually know what it's like to sit in a van for 14 hours and play an hour set to 20 kids, right? But it's just really cool that it's kind of this grassroots, but they also have all their stuff together. They're doing really cool things. They have an in-house studio. They have obviously the label department, But for the first time in my 15 plus year career, I've had a marketing person, I've had publicity, thank you very much. I've had a whole team, an art director. We've had and just incredible human
You
beings
feel
helping us.
supported. No,
Oh,
like that's a
completely.
whole support
Yes.
system. That's beautiful.
It is a dream come true, and I did not think it would happen. And here's the cool thing, right? Is that they do not own any of my music. They are not taking a percentage. They're not taking they're not taking any of the publishing or anything. And what they did with these vinyl records is they gave me a 0% micro loan, and that was how I was able to get 300 vinyls sent to us. And without them, none of this would have happened. It would have just been released like the same old story, straight to streaming. And then I'm begging my friends to like and follow and pre-save, please. Yeah. So it's cool. It's been really
so that you can
sweet.
hit a bunch of strangers that aren't ever going to give you money or support your art. So
Exactly. No, true. And like the algorithm definitely, have you heard of a shadow ban before? I have dealt with it. Being
it's like you're
political.
performing for an
Yeah.
algorithm instead of an
Yes,
audience, right?
Totally.
Like,
Totally. And we don't want that. So, and that's the one thing they said is this is real humans. It's not AI. This is no algorithms. This is real human beings releasing music. And Rudy Love's album's coming out in June. You can pre-buy their vinyl record too. And that's also going to come out before it hits streaming. So I think it's
and
really
you're having
cool.
launch parties.
I have to
Yeah,
say,
Getting, like things.
mean,
yes.
Yeah.
going back to what you said earlier, I'm just frankly shocked that a politically active queer woman would get shadow banned on these platforms. Like that population never gets shadow banned. Come on, they are always centered in the conversation. They never get silenced.
Always.
That's I love the idea of a model that assures some amount of financial security for the artist on the front end before that first day of release even happens. I think that's so cool. For the artists who want to learn more about this movement, maybe get involved with it, maybe find a way to release under this model, where can they go to learn more?
Yeah, go to Midtopia, MIDTOPIA.com. They have all the artists that are on the label. They have the buy before you stream program. And then they had information. I was actually sent this by a friend, and I just filled out their, application to possibly work together. And it took, I don't know, almost 6 months for them to reach out. So I'd already forgotten, honestly. I'm like, here's another year where I'm playing all the roles and also trying to be an artist. And they reached out, and it was boom, career changing just like that. And one of those moments that you just take a breath and you say, thank you so much for this, experience.
I'm not alone. Yeah.
Well, I didn't have Wichita, Kansas saving the music industry on my bingo card, but sure
Real
enough, here
estate's
we are.
paper there.
That's
if you
what-
tried to do that in New York or Miami, like you couldn't afford to.
Yep. I mean, it's cool because they are being a nonprofit. They apply for grants, and that's how they're able to cover a lot of this. Is that they do get grants to cover these things, and it's just amazing. That's all it is. I keep wanting to say, pinch myself and wake up, and I'm like, no, this is an amazing thing.
No, you're going to take that energy and that motivation you use, and you're going to push it to your label mates and lift each other up. I'm loving it.
Yes, a higher tide floats all boats.
Who likes all of your things and supports you? The guy next to you who's hoping you support him, and it's great. I love that.
Yep. And it's really killer music too. I mean, y'all, come on. It's different. It's not the same stuff that you hear all the time. I really love when I'm just excited about music, and, just that last track we heard from Lana Love. I've never heard that, and it was amazing. So I'm just a geek. I love music. I get really stoked on it, and I'm stoked that we are doing something to change the industry.
Yeah.
Man, that's
I
gotta say, Lauren, I'm loving the vibes that we have this week. This
Every
is
time somebody
a good
tells
vibe
me-
show.
Yeah. Every time somebody tells me my music is different, I'm like, all right, come up with your own label. Like, what do you call your style of music?
Yeah, right? I mean,
I can't put it in a label. Like, what would you call it? It's like, well, I guess you're like, it's the Taliest.
I like to say I play American music, I play all music that was inspired by Black music, rock and roll, soul. I love a little country too, Americana. I'm just, all of us, I think as human beings, we're forced to choose these genres, and we're like,
I'm going to go with melting pot music.
Thank you.
There
Yes.
you go.
Yep. There you go.
This is a weird thing to transition to, and I'm going to admit this on the front end, but to
Hey.
my knowledge, you are the only guest we've had on this show, or at least that has, told us this, that is a type 1 diabetic.
Oh, right on.
And
Hey.
I think that's really interesting. And we have family members that are affected by this. And we are cognizant, Lauren and I, of how much it just affects like every part of your day. So many of the things that just come naturally to us that we do without thinking have so many more moving parts when you have that particular issue. And I imagine a lot of those things are amplified times 1,000 when you are touring, when you are running a music career, when you're trying to be an artist and an entrepreneur. Can you speak to that experience, how you manage your diabetes while doing the things you're doing creatively?
Every single day is different, and most diabetics will tell you that for no reason something might happen. It just is how I've lived since I was the age of 10. Technology has come so far. I have an insulin pump that tells me my blood sugars every 3 minutes. So as annoying as that thing is, it saves my life.
So you have it as one. You don't have like the Dexcom separate from the lifestyle or the.
So I still have to have 2 patches. I got a Dexcom patch that reads my blood sugar, but it tells my pump what it is. And my insulin pump then gives me insulin based off of what I eat and what my sugars are.
We're
so
like
when
this close
it's
to the
incredible.
artificial pancreas, right?
We
like,
are.
this close.
Yes. And like when we're younger, it was not like that. You had to carb count. I still have to carb count, but you had to give a shot and then only eat that amount of food. If you ate more, you would get sick. If you ate less, you would drop low. So it's just this like tightrope, but same as the music industry, it's a tightrope. One day on tour, you're having the best time of your life. The next day, you're in some creepy bathroom on the side of the road, wondering why are you doing this right now?
You drop mid-show. What I always think of that with performers.
Yeah.
Mary Tyler Moore is my biggest, I don't know how she survived back in the
She's my hero back
every
then.
hour day. How did she pull that off?
Yeah.
But mid-show always weirds me out. You're on the adrenaline high of a show. And if that high takes you too high, that's something you have to correct mid-show when you're on stage and then keep your audience with you. How have you kind of dealt with that?
So I usually have my wife who's there, who's helping run things. She's my production manager, does a whole bunch of other filming and all that cool stuff. I could give the signal. This doesn't mean a beer. This means I need some orange juice. But I also do have fruit snacks in my pocket or my stagehand. Dana will have some on him. And basically I've learned what meals are good for me to eat before the big shows. The super adrenaline shows where I just opened for Bernie Sanders and AOC. It was insane. It was 15,000 people inside that building, the biggest crowd I've played for. And I just knew I needed to eat the right meal, the right snacks, and my blood sugars were good throughout. So it's just years of preparation. I just celebrated 30 years of being diabetic. So I'm pretty proud of that.
That's your diaversary?
Yes. Hey, that's the term.
Too much of this. Yeah.
Yeah. You're on the ends with the diabesties, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. I went to the Friends for Life thing and I had to learn all my peoples. No.
Yes.
No, but it is an extra layer of things you have to deal with. And again, when people aren't thinking about what an artist has to go through, because you're putting yourself out there and putting on a show, but being aware that there's a lot going on behind the scenes because they're people, they're humans.
Yes. People forget that too. And you see it when artists will cancel a tour and all the trolls come out of the woodworks to speculate why. And it's like, hey, haven't you ever had a breakdown before? Or haven't you ever
want to? Yeah.
It's not like we want to let people down when things like that happen. I drove 14 hours straight from Salt Lake City to Texas to open up for Willie Nelson's son, Lucas Nelson, and found out the day of the show that I had COVID. Right.
Oh, no.
And my friend was like, why don't you just play the show? I canceled 4 shows. And I'm like, why would I put other people's lives at risk just so I could play this show? Right. I could pick up the tour a few down the line and no one has to risk being sick. And I don't have to get the entire tour sick. And I think
you put someone else before yourself?
Never. Yes.
Are you sure you're an American?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just comes from being diabetic, right? And being conscious of having to care about my health. And then
Well,
when
and
when COVID
burnout's
hit,
huge. Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, burnout's huge. Mental health is not talked about nearly enough. But yeah, I just feel really supported by my label, in all honesty. For the first time, like I said, 15 years it took me to get here. I was ready to give up so many times, and I'm just glad I didn't.
So are we.
Yeah, aw,
Talia,
well,
we
thanks.
we so often have to tell sad stories on this show because
Yep,
oftentimes the life of an independent creator is a life of struggle.
yep.
And when we get to hear like just some really good news and an artist who's found a model that works and is finding the success that they deserve, that's so welcome around here. So thank you
Right
so
on.
much for sharing your story with us, Talia.
Thank
Don't
you.
be a stranger, all right? I want you to come on all the time because
Ah,
I'm having such a good time with you. Everybody viewing and listening this is smiling at hearing your story. Before we let you go, we got one last question for you.
alrighty.
Do you have any last tips for the indie creators out there to help them move their careers forward?
Absolutely. I think the main thing is authenticity. I mean, I am just tired of seeing a lack of authenticity, and I really want people to lean into what they can bring to something special. And I just think when artists do that, that's when you get goosebumps. That's when you feel like it's real. That's when the music hits you and stays with you for the rest of your life, is when an artist can be authentic. So no matter what that is, whatever your vibe is, go for that. I just saw Willie Nelson last night for the first time in my life. Talk about an authentic artist. That it changed my life finally hearing this music that I've listened to since a child. I saw Bob Dylan last night as well. Talk about an authentic artist. And I also saw Billy Strings talk about an authentic artist. Sierra Hole, authentic. Yesterday changed my life, y'all. Is all I'm saying. Is
Wow.
also go see music, go support other artists. I want to really just tell
Live.
everybody we need to do that more. Support your friends' bands, but not just your friends' bands. Go see new music. You never know when you're going to get those goosebumps and your life is going to change.
You brought it, Talia. Thank you so much. Our thanks to Talia Keys and Lana Love. Thanks to producer Lauren. And thanks to all of you viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. We'll see you next week.